They say every thief leaves a trail, even if it's just a whisper in the wind. That's what brought me here. Staring at a coffee-stained map spread across my desk at 3 a.m., the faint hum of the city outside my window. My name's Detective Sam Thorne, and for the past 2 years, I've been chasing ghosts. At least, that's what the media called them, the Phantom Syndicate, the most wanted robbers in the world. Their crimes were masterful. Art heists that left museums baffled, diamond vaults emptied with surgical precision, and a trail of humiliation for law enforcement agencies across continents. They were untouchable, unstoppable, and damn near invisible. No fingerprints, no security footage, no witnesses. Just a signature calling card. A single black feather left at the scene. But ghosts don't exist. People do. And people make mistakes. I first caught the scent of something tangible 6 months ago when an offhand comment from an informant in Prague pointed me toward a man named Victor Drexler, a name whispered in hushed tones across the European underworld. Drexler was a logistics mastermind, someone who could move goods or people without a trace. Word was, he'd been seen in Marrakesh, but by the time Interpol got there, Drexler was gone, leaving nothing but an unpaid hotel bill and a trail of cigarette ash. Then there was a job in Tokyo. The Uemura diamond, insured for $80 million, vanished from a high-tech vault that should have been impenetrable. The vault's locks were intact, the alarm silent, but the security guard on duty, a seasoned professional, swore he heard footsteps that night, though he saw no one. That's when I knew I wasn't chasing a single thief. I was chasing a team, and they were good. Too good. Weeks turned into months as I pieced together scraps of intel. The syndicate operated like clockwork, a symphony of skill and precision. Each member had a role. The planner, the hacker, the infiltrator, the driver. They were ghosts, but they were human. And humans, as I said, make mistakes. That's how I found myself in Rio de Janeiro, nursing a flat beer in a dingy bar. The tip had come from an unlikely source, a retired safecracker who owed me a favor. If they're anywhere, he'd said, they'll be at the Obsidian. The Obsidian wasn't on any tourist map. It was an exclusive underground club, the kind of place where fortunes were made and lost in a single night, and where secrets were currency. I'd been sitting there for hours, scanning the room, when I saw her, a woman with jet black hair, dressed in a sleek crimson dress that shimmered like liquid fire under the dim lights. She moved through the crowd with effortless grace, her smile a weapon sharper than any blade. I recognized her from an Interpol file. Nadia Volkov, the syndicate's infiltrator, the ghost herself. My heart hammered in my chest as I watched her slide into a booth, her back to me. She was talking to a man I didn't recognize, but I didn't need to. The way he carried himself, calm, deliberate, screamed professional. I leaned forward, pretending to sip my beer, straining to catch snippets of their conversation over the pulsing bass of the music. She said, her voice low and smooth, "The shipment leaves at dawn. No mistakes this time." The man nodded, lighting a cigarette. "What about Thorne?" he asked, exhaling a plume of smoke. Hearing my name sent a chill down my spine. Nadia's smile didn't falter. "Let him come," she said, her eyes glittering like shards of glass. "We'll be ready. I'd been made. Or maybe I'd never fooled them to begin with. Either way, the game had just shifted. I slipped out of the bar, my mind racing. If they knew I was on their trail, they'd tighten their operation. But they'd also get cocky. And cocky meant careless. Back in my rented apartment, I laid everything out. Photos, notes, timelines. The shipment they mentioned had to be their next target. But what? And where? I stared at the map. The pins marking their previous heists forming a jagged constellation. Tokyo, Paris, Cape Town, Istanbul. And now Rio. A pattern began to emerge. Faint but unmistakable. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in years. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Sam?" What the hell do you want? I need a favor, I said, cutting straight to the chase. And I need it fast. You're still chasing those ghosts, aren't you? They're real, I said, my jaw tightening. And I'm close. Closer than I've ever been. There was a long pause. Then, all right, Thorne, tell me what you need. I laid out my plan, every detail, every risk. If this worked, it would either end with me slapping cuffs on the world's most elusive criminals or staring down the wrong end of a gun. But that's the thing about chasing ghosts. Sometimes you have to become one yourself. The next morning, as dawn painted the Rio skyline in hues of orange and gold, I found myself standing on the rooftop of an abandoned warehouse overlooking the docks. The shipment Nadia had mentioned had to be here. Cargo moving at the crack of dawn under the watchful eyes of shadows. My contact, an old friend turned reluctant ally, had pulled through. The docks were buzzing with activity, but one container stood out. It was guarded, discreetly but effectively, by a group of men who looked like they belonged in a militia, not a shipping yard. I adjusted the earpiece nestled in my ear. You seeing this? I murmured, my voice low. Loud and clear came the reply. The voice belonged to Laura Quinn, a former MI6 operative with a knack for surveillance and a grudge against the syndicate. We'd worked together once, years ago, and though she didn't trust me, not fully, she hated the syndicate more. There's your shipment, she continued. Container 17B. Whatever's in there, they're willing to kill for it. Any movement on the perimeter? I asked, my eyes scanning the yard through binoculars. 2 patrols circling, armed, and I don't think they're carrying flashlights for fun. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. All right, let's do this. Slipping down the fire escape, I kept to the shadows, the hum of machinery masking my footsteps. I'd mapped out a route the night before, quick, quiet, and out of sight. But plans are like promises. They're only as good as the circumstances that allow them to hold. I was halfway to the container when I felt it, the distinct sensation of being watched. My instinct screamed at me to move, but I froze instead, letting the moment settle. Slowly, I turned my head, catching the faintest flicker of movement in the corner of my vision. A figure perched on a stack of crates, silhouetted against the rising sun. Nadia. She was watching me with an amused smirk, her crimson dress replaced by sleek, tactical black. She raised a hand in a mock salute, then disappeared behind the crates. Damn it, they were ready. Quinn, I whispered into the calm, picking up my pace. They know I'm here. Yeah, no kidding, she shot back. You've got company heading your way. 3 o'clock. I ducked behind a forklift as 2 guards approached, their voices low but tense. My fingers hovered over the grip of my pistol, but I held back. Noise would blow this wide open, and I needed to get to that container. The guards passed, and I slipped out, closing the gap to 17B. The container's lock was a high-tech model, no doubt installed by the syndicate themselves. I pulled a small device from my jacket, courtesy of Quinn, and attached it to the lock. The light on the device blinked green, and the lock clicked open. Inside, the air was cool and still. Rows of crates lined the container, each marked with cryptic codes. I pried one open, revealing its contents. Paintings. Dozens of them, each one priceless, each one stolen. This wasn't just a shipment. It was a treasure trove. The syndicate wasn't planning another heist. They were consolidating, preparing to disappear. Before I could process what this meant, the container door slammed shut behind me. I spun around, my pistol drawn, but it was too late. Nadia stood on the other side of the heavy steel door, her smile as sharp as a blade. "Caught you," she said, her voice muffled but dripping with satisfaction. "I have to admit, Thorne, you're persistent. Stupid but persistent." I slammed my fist against the door. "This isn't over, Volkov." "Oh, but it is," she said, her tone almost playful. "You've been chasing ghosts, detective. And ghosts? We vanish." Her footsteps faded, and the faint sound of a truck engine roared to life. They were moving the container. My pulse quickened as I activated the comm. Quinn, they've locked me in. They're moving the container. I'm on it, she replied. Hold tight. The container lurched, the ground falling away beneath me as it was lifted onto a truck. My mind raced, every second bringing me closer to an unknown fate. But this was it. This was my chance. The syndicate had made their move, and now it was my turn. Sometimes, to catch ghosts, you have to haunt them first. The container rocked as the truck began to move, the rumble of the engine vibrating through the metal walls. I took stock of my options, or lack thereof. I couldn't let the syndicate disappear again. Not this time. My hands worked quickly, searching the interior of the container. The crates were solid wood, and the paintings, though priceless, weren't going to help me escape. But then I found it, a crowbar wedged between two crates. Quinn, I said into the comm, gripping the tool. I need you to track this truck. Tell me where it's headed. Already on it, she replied. GPS pinging. Looks like they're heading west, toward the outskirts of the city. Could be a private airstrip or another hideout. Just keep me updated, I said, wedging a crowbar into the seam of the container's doors. I pried with all my strength, the metal groaning under the pressure. The truck hit a bump, nearly knocking me off my feet, but I held on. After what felt like an eternity, the door gave way just enough for a sliver of light to stream in. I peered out, catching a glimpse of the road rushing past. The truck was speeding through the industrial district, warehouses and factories blurring by. Bad news, Thorne. Quinn's voice came through. Satellite shows you're heading for an airstrip. If they get you airborne, you're as good as gone. Noted, I muttered. Let's make sure that doesn't happen. The truck slowed as it approached a security checkpoint. I seized the moment, pushing the door open just enough to slip out. The ground rushed up to meet me, and I hit the asphalt hard, rolling to absorb the impact. Pain shot through my shoulder, but I didn't stop. I scrambled to my feet and darted toward the shadows, staying low. The truck rolled past a checkpoint, oblivious to my escape. I pulled my pistol and scanned the area. The airstrip was small, with a single runway and a jet idling on the tarmac. The syndicate was loading the stolen goods onto the plane, their movements efficient and coordinated. Nadia stood near the plane's ramp, barking orders. I needed to act fast. I spotted a fuel truck parked near the hangar, an idea forming in my mind. Quinn, I need a distraction, I whispered. On it, she said. Give me 30 seconds. I crept toward the fuel truck, ducking behind crates and machinery. By the time I reached it, the distraction hit. A loud explosion rocked the far side of the airstrip, sending syndicate members scrambling. Nadia spun around, her sharp eyes scanning for the source of the commotion. I climbed into the fuel truck and started the engine. The roar drew attention, but it was too late. I floored it, steering the massive vehicle toward the plane. Shouts erupted as syndicate members opened fire, bullets pinging off the truck's armored sides. Nadia turned, her expression shifting from surprise to rage as she realized what I was doing. She raised her pistol, aiming directly at me, but I didn't flinch. The truck barreled forward, slamming into the plane's side with a deafening crash. The force toppled the cargo ramp, scattering crates and syndicate members alike. I jumped out of the truck, my pistol raised. Hands in the air, I shouted. Nadia, her crimson dress replaced with tactical black, stood amidst the chaos, her weapon trained on me. You're predictable, Thorne, she said, her voice cold, but brave. I'll give you that. Drop it, Nadia, I said, my aim steady. This is over. Her lips curled into a smile. Not quite. Before I could react, a syndicate member blindsided me, tackling me to the ground. My pistol skidded away, and I fought to regain control. Nadia barked orders, her team regrouping despite the chaos. I landed a solid punch to my attacker's jaw, scrambling to my feet, but the odds were stacked against me. Suddenly, the roar of a helicopter filled the air. A spotlight cut through the darkness, and a voice boomed over a loudspeaker. "This is Interpol. Stand down and surrender." Quinn had called in reinforcements. The syndicate scattered, some running for the jungle beyond the airstrip, others trying to board the damaged plane. Nadia hesitated, her eyes locking with mine one last time. Then, with a smirk, she bolted into the shadows, disappearing like the ghost she was. I didn't chase her. The Interpol team swarmed the airstrip, rounding up syndicate members and securing the stolen art. As the dust settled, I leaned against a fuel truck, exhaustion washing over me. Quinn's voice crackled in my earpiece. "You all right, Thorne?" "Yeah," I said, watching as agents loaded the captured syndicate members into vans. "We got most of them, but not her," she said, a note of disappointment in her voice. "No," I admitted, "not her." The black feather lay on the ground near the plane, a silent taunt. I picked it up, tucking it into my jacket. The syndicate had been dealt a major blow, but Nadia Volkov was still out there, and I knew she'd be back. Chasing ghosts was never about catching them all at once. It was about persistence, about never letting up. And as long as Nadia was out there, I'd keep chasing, because that's what I do.